Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
So you need to forgive your mother then. And God will forgive you and give you back common sense, and your life will be amazing.
Okay, I'll consider it, but like...
And your father too. They couldn't help themselves.
My father. You're crossing the line there. I don't know about that.
But they both could not help themselves. And as long as you resent them, you're going to be in the same mode.
But isn't that like making excuses for like two grown-ass people in their 60s?
No, that's on them. Their problem will still be on them, but you'll be free. And that way you don't pass it on to your family if you start one.
Hi, my wonderful sweet babies. It's Destin Troyce, and for today's video, I really had to come on here and talk about how I actually forgave my parents and moved on with my life. Now, I didn't want to do this video at first because I was like, I don't really care. You guys know that a big staple of my channel when I first started YouTube was me talking about my family, my life growing up with my abusive sibling, and shit like that. But for the most part, I've pretty much gotten to a point in my life where I've pretty much moved on. I've pretty much moved past that. I don't really talk about my family anymore because most of them are fake as fuck, fucked up, fraudulent ass, weak ass, hating ass bitches who ain't shit because they just jealous of people who are doing better than them. So I've pretty much learned that when it comes to my family, it's okay to love people at a distance and it's okay to cut people off for no fucking reason. I got to a point in my life where since I've accumulated a lot of amazing things for myself, I've seen that a lot of family members wanted to be a part of me. They felt entitled to be a part of that. For example, the reason why, if you guys didn't know, I cut off my mother was because my mother was very abusive, verbally per se. And a lot of people don't know this, but I knew that I didn't like my mom by the time I was 12 years old. At 12 years old, I knew, yeah, I don't like her and I can't wait to move out at 18. Because my mom was a very bitter woman. She was very bitter because she was very hung up and stuck up on a man who, aka my father, for the most part, left her ass, moved on with his life, and wasn't involved in my life and my siblings' life. And because of like my father, my mom resented me a lot. And I knew this, even though she probably wouldn't admit it, I knew this at a young age, specifically because my mother would always do a little slick and say little shady shit that she wouldn't say to my other siblings. And even though my mother wouldn't admit this, I can genuinely say that she definitely did resent me because I look a lot like my father, specifically because even growing up as a kid, when I'd be taking food out the pot, she'd be like, ugh, wait for me to take it out for you. You're going in the pot just like your dad. You talking back to me? You talking back to me? Just like your dad. You do just like your dad. You're rude and you're a piece of shit just like your dad. She would always say horrible shit like that, and I would always have all these memories of her doing that. As young as 9 years old, she was doing fucked up shit like that and saying shit like that to me as a kid. So I grew a resentment from my mother because I didn't understand why she didn't like me. I didn't understand. I felt as though my mother didn't like me. So I didn't have an issue with my mother. I just did not like her. I loved her and still love her to this day. I just didn't like her. And it's okay not to like your parents. If your parents ain't shit, it's okay if you don't like your parents. A lot of y'all watching this can't stand your fathers, but won't admit it because you feel like that's wrong. It's okay to say you don't fucking like someone. It's okay to say you don't like your sibling. And it's okay to say that you don't like your child's father. It's okay to say you don't like your baby mama. And it's okay to say you don't like your siblings. That is fine. Because you can't choose your family. But you can choose whether or not you want to answer the phone when they call you. Because you did one or two nice things, a few nice things, you're not going to treat me any kind of way and expect me to just take it. I shouldn't be expected to take disrespect, and I shouldn't be able to take mistreatment and abuse just because you did good things for me. Like what kind of toxic mindset is that? Yeah, don't worry about it. So 3 years ago, I made the decision to cut off my mom for good once I moved out of her house. Once I moved out of my mother's house, I pretty much just said, now that I'm out on my own, fending for myself, I don't really feel the need to speak to her anymore because she's not adding any value into my life. She's verbally abusive. She's horribly judgmental. She was just so toxic and verbally abusive. And I get that sometimes mothers can be very concerned, but she just got to a point where it was just so overbearing. And every time she called me, I would just get anxiety and I would just roll my eyes and be like, why the fuck is she calling me? Like, I just didn't like talking to her, especially because our phone calls would really last 1 minute. Like, are you okay? Okay. Did you eat? Okay, bye. And that'll be it. Or when she would call me after 5 days or 6 days or even 2 weeks without calling me or hitting me up, or me not calling or hitting her up, she'd be like, hello, Destin. Yeah, I'm fine. Did you eat? Yeah. I'm not feel like paying the light bill. And I'd be like, oh. She would literally do shit like that. And then I would say, oh yeah, yeah, those light bills, it gets kind of expensive. You should like try turning off the TV at night. And she would say, yeah, can I have $250? And I'd be like, all right, fine. And basically cash app her the money. And I'll get so irritated because she would only hit me up just to fucking ask for money, or she would hit me up and the conversation would last like 30 to 40 seconds. And then my mother got to a point where she felt so entitled, where she would always say to me, how come you never call me? And then I would be like, you do know a phone works both ways, right? And she would say, no, 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 no. You're supposed to calling me. You're supposed to call me. That's how it works. And I would just get so irritated and so disgusted with her entitlement. And I got irritated even more because once I accumulated a good amount of success and a good amount of financial stability, she got to a point where she felt as though that she was entitled. Like, I consistently gave her money all the time, and it was very irritating. One time she hit me up because she wanted a business venture. She wanted to open up a restaurant, and she asked me for $1,000, and still to this day that restaurant hasn't gone any fucking where, and I gave her $1,000 out of nowhere. Then there was this one time where she asked me for $4,000 because she wants to get her ass done. Talking about she wants to get her ass done because she wants to look good for her broke ass man who ain't got no fucking job, who's a bum ass nigga, who clearly who don't even pay his fucking child support. And she wanted to look good for this bum, busted, crusty nigga that she got in her bed sleeping with. So it would just be stuff like that that would just pile up and just irritate me, because I would just be like, like, you only hit me up when you need money, you're verbally abusive, you're horribly fucking judgmental, you have just this disgusting entitlement to where you feel like every time you call me, I should give you money because you raised me. And that shit fucking irritated me. My mother was a big reason why my sister was so resentful and so nasty and so hateful towards me, because my mother would always talk mad shit about me to other relatives as young as 9 years old. Mind you, I was a very decent kid, got decent grades, didn't even act out, and my mother didn't let me do shit growing up. So I don't have any heinous stories of me sneaking out. I don't have a criminal record, none of that stuff. I was just a kid. So any little thing I did, my mother would always bash me to my aunts, her cousins, her co-workers. Sometimes she would even embarrass me in public and say things like, he's just like his dad. Look at him in his big ass head. Like, she would do stuff like that in front of other people. And I hated it. Anytime guests would come over, she'd be like, did you shower? And I'd be like, yeah, I did, obviously. And she'd be like, he's so rude. He's just like his dad. Like, he's so rude just like his dad. Like, she would do stuff like that in front of other people, and it drove me insane. And that even carried over to my sister, because my sister was a lot like my mother in many ways. And my sister had this very strong disdain and this strong dislike for me, because my mom was just so hateful and so bitter and so nasty to me because of what my father did and what my father didn't do. And when it came to my father, I didn't like my father either, because my father was he was just a control freak. He had that narcissistic mentality where it's either my way or the highway. He also had that same entitlement where he felt as though that he was owed a phone call, even though his bitch ass missed 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years of my entire life. Or he would say he's going to pick me up, take me this, take me that, to go shopping, go get some shoes. Never hit me up, never pick up the phone on the day. And there'd be even times where he'd say, okay, yeah, I'm going to pay your phone bill, pay it one time, and never pay that shit again as a kid. So it was just stuff like that that just made me really not like my parents, because they were just very narcissistic and they were just draining my energy as young as a kid. So as I became into adulthood, I cut my mom off 3 years ago, and I also cut my father off. And I didn't even need to cut him off. His bitch ass won't even call me, hit me up, and I don't even talk to him anyway. So I had just this strong, like, I don't want nothing to do with these people because they ain't shit, they're trash, I don't want to speak to them, and I don't want to be nowhere near them.
Now, having bad parents is one thing, but imagine mixing in poverty. Now, I grew up in a very rough area. Not only that, I also had to deal with a mom who was very irresponsible. My mom never had her shit together. She was always trying to buy the nice designer clothes, designer outfits. She was always trying to buy these nice, beautiful furniture to like make her house look stunning to impress other people, and she would never budget her money correctly. That's why I'm so stuck on budgeting my money and not being poor and always paying my bills on time, because my mother rarely ever paid her bills on time. It got to the point where there were even times where we literally slept in motels because my mom would like try to wait and hope that she could save enough money to get us a new apartment. My mom probably had at least 7 evictions throughout my entire childhood, and my dad was also an alcoholic. The rabbit hole goes deep, but poverty really taught me a lot about life, and that's a big reason why I'm so wise compared to a lot of my peers. The struggle was real. I know how it's like to not have lights in the house for literally 3 weeks. I also know how it's like to not have food in the fridge. And I also remember going home hungry as hell. And it was so much more than just life. It was just my mother was very irresponsible. My dad had a gambling problem. He was an alcoholic. He wasn't around to help with my mom. He didn't want to pay child support. None of that stuff. My mom also felt like she was too prideful to get child support. So maybe I might write a book one day, but the rabbit hole goes deep. Poverty really did a lot to my psychological mindset, and it really took me to where I am today, because I wouldn't be who I am today without poverty.
Just because they're your parents, you don't owe your parents any fucking thing. And this is word to all the children watching this that feel as though they have to buy their parents a home or give their parents money. If you're a grown-ass woman or a grown-ass man and you're a working-class citizen and you do not live with your parents anymore, you don't owe your parents shit. And let me tell you why. Your parents chose to have you. And it took me a while to realize this, because growing up, I was always trying to like hustle and find a way to make money, selling candy, doing all that stuff, doing social media. And I had this mindset where I gotta buy my mom a house. I gotta buy my mom a house. And my mom even told me that she wanted me to go to college to be a plastic surgeon, or go to college to be a doctor or a lawyer, or go to school to be a nurse, because she felt as though that would be the way for me to be financially free, to take care of her, and to buy her ass a house. And I decided to follow my dreams, and I ended up succeeding in doing what I wanted to do and thriving at it. And even though she didn't support any fucking thing I've ever did to a certain extent, I still felt for some reason I had to still buy her a house. I still had to give her money. And if I gotta be honest, since I moved out of her house, if I had to do the math, I'd probably given her at most like $6,000 just from me leaving and moving out of the house. There'd be times where when I first moved out, I had a roommate, I would have $600 to pay for my rent when I had a roommate. And then she would hit me up and say, "Oh, I'm half short on rent. I don't know what I'm going to do." And I'd be like, "Oh, wow, yeah, that's crazy. Are you going back to work? You should like work more hours." Because I don't like passive aggressive people, and I don't want to offer if you don't ask. Open your fucking mouth. So basically she'd say, "Do you have $600? And I'd be like, "All right, fine." So I'd be paying my rent and then paying her rent at that. So it's like at this point, I might as well get a fucking apartment when I first moved out, because I'm already paying $600 to live in a bedroom that I was living in when I found a random roommate on Craigslist. And I just realized, why? Why am I speaking to this individual? Why am I dealing with her when I don't like her? And I never liked her since I was 12, because she's so toxic and abusive and narcissistic. Same thing with my father. So I kind of came to the conclusion, I don't have to give my mother shit. And I learned this because as I was documenting and talking about this in my mukbangs and my videos, a lot of you guys in the comment section were telling me, "That's your mom. You should give her money. You should. She took care of you. How would you even exist? Oh, it's Nigerian culture. Oh, well, where I'm from in Turks and Caicos, where I'm from in Jamaica, we make sure we take care of our mothers," and like a whole bunch of shit like that. I don't give a fuck what part of Latin America, what part of Caribbean, or what part of Africa you reside to where that's your culture. But you have to understand that you don't owe your parents shit because they chose to have your ass. If you're a grown-ass woman or a grown-ass man watching this, understand that your parents chose to have you. If they didn't raise you and they didn't want to take care of you, the system, CPS, Child Protective Services, would have came and got you, and they would have took care of you. The system would have took care of you. You don't owe your parents anything once you become grown as hell, because you have your own bills, your own life, and when your parents are walking, breathing, and are completely capable of working and fending for themselves, why should you give them anything? And even at that, your parents shouldn't feel entitled, because your parents could have saved for retirement. Anyone ever heard of a 401k or a Roth IRA or a retirement account? You see what I mean? It's like your parents are responsible for themselves. Parents watching this, if you're a young parent or if you're a parent of a young child, do you genuinely feel like you had a kid because you wanted them to take care of you when you were older? Your kids should want to take care of you because they want to, not because they feel like they have to. You know, you did your job. Your kids leave the nest. They flew out of the nest and they spread their wings. Once your kids leave the house and spread their wings, let them live their life and take care of themselves. If anything, you have some kids who are in college, or some kids who aren't even in college and are out of college, who are still asking their parents for money. And a lot of parents don't mind.
But the saying goes both ways. Once you become 18, your parents don't kind of owe you shit either. Think about it for a second. I'll use myself as an example. When I was in high school, I worked at Boston Market. And then later on, I also worked at a chicken shack. I also worked at a restaurant called Cooper's Hawk. So I worked 2 jobs while in high school, did social media, and I also had a job after. So let me just be very clear that you should get a job if you're 18. Honestly, if your parents cut you off, I wouldn't blame them. Get a job. Get a job. My parents never gave me shit when I was grown. And truth be told, they don't have to give you shit either when you're grown.
You don't owe anybody shit if it's at the expense of your own sanity, in peace. Fast forward to now, I recently forgave my parents 4 months ago. And I forgave my parents specifically because I started to realize if my parents weren't so shitty, would I be where I am today? The reason why I'm so ambitious and the reason why I encourage people to hustle hard and I believe in going out there and go getting it is because I believe in self-accountability, self-responsibility. And the reason why I believe in self-accountability, self-responsibility, and authenticity is because my parents didn't carry any of those traits. My parents had a negative habit of blaming the whole world for their problems. If my mom was struggling with bills, she blamed my father. She blamed the whole world. It was everybody's fault why she was late with the water bill. It was everybody's fault. If she tried to like ask for an extension when it came to paying the light bill, she would say, I don't know why they do this in America and they make these light bills so expensive. And it's like, girl, you're choosing to live in America. Or girl, take some self-responsibility and find a cheaper apartment. Or budget your money. And my mother never budgeted her money. Same thing with my father. My parents were both financially irresponsible individuals. My father was very fucking cheap. My mother was financially irresponsible. You know? Would I be financially responsible if it wasn't for my parents' shitty action? You see what I mean? So I've started investing into different avenues. Stocks, cryptocurrencies. I also have a IRA, which is a retirement account. So every month I put around a couple $100s in a retirement account. I'm using my time wisely and I'm more strategic about investing my money and not trying to be in poverty because I watched my parents struggle so much and then blame the whole world when in reality, I'm a firm believer in we have the same 24 hours as Beyonce. Not the same opportunities, but we have the same 24 hours. What are you doing in your 24 hours? Even if you're a kid, rack up your resume, learn a new skill. There's so many resources out there on social media. You could literally take a whole Google portal class and get a certificate in IT tech. You see what I mean? So if my parents weren't so shitty, if my parents weren't so irresponsible, would I be where I am today? So it was my parents' mistakes that kind of shaped me to be a better person. So let's say one of these days, if I ever decide to have kids, I'm not really a big fan of kids. If I ever decide to have kids, I just broke a generational curse and I broke the cycle. Same thing with you. If your parents did a lot of shitty things by allowing you to be abused, mistreated, harmed you, verbally abused you, did a lot of things, you could learn from your parents. And guess what? If you learn from your parents' mistakes, you just broke a generational curse. If your parents had severe mental health conditions and you ended up inheriting it because you were around them, guess what? You get medication, you get therapy, you get help, you just broke a generational curse. So more than likely, your kid is not going to get that schizophrenia that your mother passed on to you. Because you broke the cycle and you chose to get help and you chose to take some self-responsibility. You chose to break out of that victimhood, which if you guys didn't know, victimhood is a generational curse that plagues all families of all races. You see what I mean? So if my parents didn't make those mistakes that they made, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today. If my parents weren't so financially irresponsible, I don't think I would have been so entrepreneurial and ambitious and trying to find a way to hustle, make money, and find a way to make my money the right way. And I don't think I would have moved out at 18. So I basically had to sit down, relax, breathe, meditate, and think about all the bad times. And there damn sure weren't that many good times. And think about, damn. And I feel like y'all should do this too if you're struggling on forgiving your parents because it's not that fucking easy. The reason why I decided to forgive my parents, because for me, that wasn't a thought. A lot of people, when I first cut off my mother, told me, you got to forgive her. A lot of y'all in the comments were telling me, you had to forgive her. Christ believes in forgiveness. And I got to a point where I was like, if there is a God and there is Christ and Christ believes in forgiveness, why the fuck would he put me in a predicament where I'm dealing with this shitty-ass family that I want to slap the shit out of with these fake-ass motherfuckers and these whack-ass cousins who always run their mouth, talk shit. Yes, bitch, I'm talking to you. I know you watching this, bitch. Hi. Yeah, you fake as fuck. Yeah, so why would I be in a family full of fake-ass, fraudulent-ass, snake-ass people who are vindictive, lying, talk shit about you to other people, run their mouth? Why would I be in this predicament with parents who are narcissistic, don't take any self-accountability? Why would I have this life? And I want everyone to understand, blessings come with patience. So when you're patient with yourself, a lot of blessings come. I noticed that when it comes to forgiving a lot of your parents, it's not going to be that easy because your mother did a lot of fucked up shit. Some of y'all might say, well, you know, I don't harbor any resentment against my parents despite what they did. Listen, low-key you do. Low-key you resent the fact that you get a phone call from your dad. Low-key you hate when your grandmother who raised you calls you. Low-key you hate it when your aunt who raised you call you. Low-key you can't stand your mother. A lot of y'all know that deep down inside you have a lot of resentment against your parents because they're, one, narcissistic as fuck. don't take no self-accountability, lie all the time, fake, use you for something as far as your car, money, or they use you for some type of validation, you know damn well that you probably have resentment against your parents unless you had bomb-ass parents or good-ass parents. You see what I mean? So even if you are associated with your parents, there's still a possibility that you still have some disdain and dislike and you still haven't forgive your parents even though you're still associated with them. So for me keeping my distance from both of them and staying the fuck away from both of them was a way for me to really understand and really take time and be patient with myself on, damn, y'all really ain't shit. But it's not y'all fault that y'all ain't shit. How do I know my mother didn't get abused as a child? How do I know that my mother's mother wasn't shit? Well, I know my mother's mother wasn't shit. And plus, I even know that my mother wasn't even raised by her mom. My mother was actually raised by nannies. My mother grew up with a very wealthy family. Is it a possibility that you were that way and you were abusive and neglectful and didn't know how to be a mother because of the way your mother raised you? And this goes for everyone. You are a reflection of your parents, and if you don't see it now, it's because you're young. If you're an adult, you know good and fucking well that you possess a lot of traits from your mom or your dad. You're probably impatient. You're probably someone that doesn't like to apologize. You're probably very feisty. You probably have a bad temper. You probably get very, very loud in very simple situations. You're probably very, very ADHD prone. You're probably a very complicated and someone that's hard as fuck to please. Or you're someone that's probably people-pleasing as fuck and you want to please your partners, you want to please your friend, you want to run to the rescue and save everyone. These are things you inherited from your parents. But the big reason why I forgave my parents was because, if you guys didn't know, I did an interview 9 months ago. And for the most part, in this interview, this man basically told me that in order for me to move on with my life, be happy and get common sense and common ground, I'm going to have to forgive my parents so that I can move on with my life.
And so have you ever thought about forgiving your parents?
I'm not ready to.
Why
until
not?
they actually do some self-reflection and they actually take responsibility for their own actions. Because I can forgive you and be like, oh yeah, you know, I forgive you. But then if you're doing the same shit, it's just like, I mean, what's the point of forgiving you if you're going to turn around and do the same shit and lie and steal and do all types of shit?
So that you can overcome your panic attacks.
I think
Because
I'd rather
if
just
you-
go to therapy and do meditations and breathing exercises.
But if you forgive your mother, you will overcome her because you become like what you hate. So you have your mother's identity. So if you forgive her, God will forgive you and take her identity away from you, and the panic attacks will stop. Because your mother can't help herself. You know how you can't help yourself?
Yeah.
She can't help herself. So you know how she feels. That doesn't mean you got to hang out with her or give her your money. But if you want to overcome the panic attack, you need to forgive her. I'm sorry for resenting you. I realize now you can help yourself. I became like you. I have panic attacks. I'm a little bitch, and I don't want to be that way. And you don't want to be that way, right? You don't want to be a little bitch, right?
I definitely don't.
So you want to overcome being a bitch?
Yeah.
So you need to forgive your mother then. And God will forgive you and give you back common sense, and your life will be amazing.
Okay, I'll consider it, but like...
And your father too. They couldn't help
Oh,
themselves.
my father. Oh, you're crossing the line there. I don't know about that.
But they both could not help themselves. And as long as you resent them, you're going to be in the same mode.
But isn't that like making excuses for like two grown-ass people in their 60s?
No, that's on
Like-
them. Their problem will still be on them, but you'll be free. And that way you don't pass it on to your family if you start one.
See, I had that mentality at first, but then I had to understand that like, you can't like, I can't sit up here and force myself to forgive someone who's not gonna take accountability for their actions
But
only because.
that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is you, and you're becoming like them because you do resent them, because anger is judgment. And when you judge, you'll be judged. So if you forgive them, they can stay the way they are. They don't have to apologize or anything. At least you will have an amazing life. God will take that away from you.
Okay, and then just keep my distance.
Yeah,
away from
you don't
them.
have to hang out with them. You don't have to talk to them or anything. But you will be free.
Okay.
And they don't have to apologize or anything. You forgive them. Don't ask for forgiveness. God will forgive you.
Even though she tried to steal my taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to stay away from them. That makes sense?
Yeah. It's just gonna take some time. Like I just need to self-reflect, breathe, and just take it all in for a little bit.
Don't wait too long.
Now, at first, I didn't understand what he meant. I kept saying to myself, but they're not going to take any accountability. Why would I even forgive them? And he thoroughly explained to me, and I didn't understand until recently, forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. So if you really want to move on with your life when it comes to somebody who abused you, treated you like shit, molested you, verbally abused you, you have to understand that you have to be patient with yourself, but you also have to understand that you have to forgive them for you. You're not giving the person any satisfaction. Whatever that person did to you, they'll get their karma, they'll get their shit, and you'll see what happens to them in the long run. Or if you don't, that's not your fucking problem. Let the universe, God, or whatever you believe in, handle that shit. Stop trying to do God's work. Stop trying to do the universe's work or whatever you believe in, and let them handle that shit. Let the universe and the circle of life handle them and their karma. They fucked you over and they did you wrong, but it's time for you to move on with your life. And I had to learn this with patience and time. And 3 years later, I'm now realizing that distance was the best thing I ever did. So if you feel like your parents are abusive, narcissistic, they treat your significant other like shit, treat your kids like shit, or they just don't respect you, it's okay to cut them off. It's okay to protect your sanity in order to maintain your peace and happiness. So now that I've forgiven my parents, I feel as though that my life is getting a lot better. I feel like I'm a lot more emotionally aware. I feel like I'm a lot more conscious about nasty people, evil people, hateful people. You know, I've also detoxed my circle. I only fuck with a few people. I changed my number. Only a few people have my number. I don't fuck with a lot of people at all. Cutting off my mother and cutting off my father taught me a lot of shit about life. It taught me that I don't have to tolerate nobody disrespecting me. If you're someone that dealt with abusive parents, more than likely you have a lot of patience because you dealt with people disrespecting you, trying you, dismissing your mental health, and that helped you and benefited you in life. So think about it like this. You can say that your parents are fucked up, did some shady shit to you, you don't like them, they are disrespectful to you, your husband, your family, your kids, you don't like them at all, you can't stand them, but you're still associated with them or you cut them off. Think about it like this. What are the positive things that you gained from it? I just out of nowhere thought to myself, why the fuck am I holding on to this? Because when you hold on to bullshit and when you hold on to baggage, you're having these emotional blockages on you. That's when the negative forces in the world, whether you believe in demonic forces, negative forces, or negative warfare, that's when they get to weigh you down. You want that new job, you want that new promotion. Oh, guess what? You can't, because guess what? You're not ready for it. You're not happy and you don't feel like you deserve peace and success because you've been abused, mistreated, molested, treated like shit your whole life, your whole childhood. So you don't feel like you're worthy of happiness. Oh, yeah, you're with this shitty guy. You're with this horrible guy because your dad fucked you up. Your dad wasn't in your life. And your dad was a shitty father. And your dad taught you that you were like fat and ugly and you were this and that. Yeah, so I'm going to tolerate a shitty relationship because my father didn't love me and didn't like me. You see what I mean? It's like once you realize, holy shit, my parents ain't shit. My mom ain't shit. My dad ain't shit. Oh, wait. That's fine because that's who y'all are. And I learned to accept that. And I was instantly able to forgive my mother 7 months after this interview because I really had to sit back and think about it. However, it took me a while to forgive my father. I actually really fully forgave my father probably, if I'm being honest, 2 months ago. I forgave my mother 4 months ago and I forgave my father 2 months ago because I meditated on it and realized I forgive my mother, and I forgive all the rest of my family that were shady, fraudulent, and fake. I don't care. I'm over it. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for their fraudulent fakeness and their vindictiveness and their abusive behavior and just their overall shady demeanor. Now, when it came to my father, I wasn't so quick to forgive him. He wasn't that persistent in my life, and I don't know my father well enough, but I was willing to forgive my father despite his abusive, control freak antics because I realized, you know what? Maybe I should call him. My mother, I wasn't ready to call. I wasn't ready to call and talk to her. I don't feel the need to call and talk to my mother. It's fine. I'm not going to call my mother. I'm not going to talk to her. I just don't care to. I just want to move on. I'm kind of over it and I've forgiven her. So I feel like I got the peace and closure I needed to be a better person. When it came to my father, I actually called my father because I don't know him well enough. So I spoke to him, and he was so shocked to hear from me. And for the most part, the conversation went decent at first. And he was saying a lot of cool things as far as like, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, I'm happy that, you know, you're stable, you're doing your thing, this, that, and the third. But then he followed up by saying, yeah, you remember when I used to take you and your brother out for ice cream? Yeah, like I was very like, yeah, well, I used to do like so many amazing things. You remember when we went to Disney World that one time? You remember when I used to like take you and your brother out and I used to buy you guys turkey legs? You remember that? And I was so shocked because he kept bringing up all the good. And every time I would bring up all the negative things like, oh yeah, I remember there was that one instance where you embarrassed me and you weren't very nice and yeah. And he would like ignore it and change the subject. And then I would also bring up how, so can we talk about that instance that happened when I was 9 years old and you were rude as fuck to me and you're so nasty to me and you embarrassed me in public in front of all those people? Can we talk about that? Like, I want to like, you know, get some closure on that. And he'd be like, I want to leave the past in the past. I don't think we should talk about the past, you know. He would just do stuff like that. And at first I was a little bit irritated. And then he also invited me to come see him. And I said, okay, great. You know what? I'm going to go see him. Maybe I'll take a flight and just fly out to him and go see him. He even offered to let me stay in his house and everything. Come to find out, this motherfucker isn't working, doesn't have a job. This motherfucker is basically living off his wife. And one thing that made me not want to go see him was he asked me right after we got off the phone the first time, with me not speaking to him in years. Right when we got off the phone, one of the first things he said to me was, so, send me your YouTube channel. I'm hearing you're doing YouTube around the family. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. Send him a link to my YouTube channel. He called me the next day saying, hey, you know, Troyce, we're supposed to be talking every day. We should be friends. Like, you know, we got to be friends. You know, you're all I have. You and your brother are all I have. And I was like, oh, yeah. My brother's number is still the same. Didn't even give a fuck to call my brother. My brother don't fuck with my dad either. Didn't even care to talk to my brother and at all. And I literally told him, yeah, my brother's number is still the same. If you want to call him, call him. And he's like, yeah. I'll talk to him, you know, when we get a chance. And it's like why does he only want to talk to me and doesn't care to call my brother's phone to get some peace and tranquility? But he's talking about something that we're cool, we should be friends, and we should all be connected, and me and my brother are all he has and shit like that. So then my dad's dumbass slipped up and said, you know, you have, you know, YouTube and stuff like that. You know, you're making all this money, you know, making sure just, you know, that you're saving your money, you know, save your money, a lot of it, you know. And I was like, yeah, I'm technically doing that now. And if I don't save it, I'll just invest it. And he was like, yeah, we'll talk about that when you come and visit me. And I left a bad taste in my mouth. And that was pretty much it. And then he pretty much found an excuse about why he had to go when we were on the phone. And this motherfucker don't even have a job. It's like do you really have to go? I mean, your ass is just sitting down watching TV. It's just shit like that. It was just like this dude is narcissistic. I'm trying to bring up past trauma. He says he wants to leave the past in the past. I'm trying to bring it up. He offered me to come stay with him, and he's talking about investing. And then what really lost me even more was he was talking about how me and him need to go to the casino sometime. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this bitch. Because my dad had a horrible gambling problem to the point where anytime my dad went to the casino, everyone knew who he was, and he was considered a VIP. He would get free food all the time because he would win a whole bunch of money back when I was a kid. My dad had a gambling problem for the most part. His ass was always in the fucking casino on his off day. So I was like, right after I got off the phone, I was like, this motherfucker want me to come see him. He want me to spend my money to catch a flight. He talking about how he'll call my brother when he get a chance, even though I just told him my brother, his number is the same. He don't care to talk to my brother. He's talking about how we should talk every day after seeing my damn YouTube channel. And then this motherfucker talking about some save your money and we'll talk about investing when I see you. I was like, fuck this nigga. I was mad as fuck at first because I really just wanted some closure. But then I got to a point where I was like, wait, he been that shit. I been knew he wasn't shit. I've known this since I was a child, that he was narcissistic, a control freak, and he was so self-absorbed and entitled. I've known this. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm kind of over it now. So I'm not going to see him. So what I did was I ended up blocking his bitch ass number, and that was it. So I pretty much was like, that's your character. That's who you are. you're someone that's narcissistic. Like I said earlier in this video, he's narcissistic. You won't take any self-accountability for any of your actions. And you kept saying, let's leave the past in the past anytime I wanted to address past trauma. You know what? Fuck you, bitch. I forgive you. That's who you are. That's who you are, and I respect that. You've always been this way, and I've always known this as a teenager, as a young child, and now as an adult, I just revisited who you were. I respect that's who you are, and I'm going to respectfully keep it moving. And I forgive you because I just don't care anymore. Because you had to understand, are you really going to spend your whole life blaming your parents for all your actions, your negative traits, and your negative habits? Or are you going to take it as a way to grow from it, break the generational curse, and channel it into something good? So, if you can't forgive your parents now, give it some time. It took me 3 years, but I actually did it. And I'm pretty proud of myself for doing so. I'm pretty happy with my life. I think things are going well. And another thing that started happening when I forgave my parents was, I'm very spiritual. I'm very big on crystals, manifestation, and speaking things into existence, meditation, astral projection, and shit like that. So I realized that, so one thing that started happening to me was I felt like the universe was constantly talking to me. Everywhere I go, ever since I forgave my parents, I started seeing repeated numbers like 111, 1111, 444 everywhere I go. I also started seeing white feathers everywhere I went. I started seeing black crows every single day outside my apartment.
Down the sidewalk. Oh my God, there's another one up here. You can see that? I'm literally walking, and it's a crow on a damn light pole. And a crow literally flying over me. Here I am in the shade trying to eat my damn food, and it comes out of nowhere. Literally. Just so a lot of y'all who think I'm crazy.
And no, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes crows can mean death, but it only means death when it's more than 3. And typically crows can mean transformation, which means out with the old, in with the new, which means you're shedding out of your old skin and getting into your new skin.
And also, people tend to demonize anything that's black throughout history. Trust me when I tell you, these birds are beautiful, magical, and these birds are way more than just a negative connotation that the media shows. The media is lying. Pay attention to crows. They know the truth.
Like I said, to conclude this video, forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for you. So you can move on and you can release and let go of these emotional blockages that are weighing you down, so that way you can be the strong and better version of yourself. So I'm happy. I don't care to talk to my parents. I forgave them. I'm moving on. And yeah, crazy enough, all it took was being patient with yourself. And I hope somebody gained something from this. Be patient with yourself. If someone tells you to forgive your parents, do that shit at your own time. Don't let people pull the whole, well, God says to forgive. Fuck that. Forgive when you're ready to forgive. When you're ready, that's when it'll happen. You don't have to do it now. You could do it while you're meditating, and if you want to sit down and map out your whole mind, if you want to sit down and write down your thoughts, or if you want to sit down and just reflect on your whole life, do it. But if you forgive your parents, you have to mean it. You can't just say, okay, I forgive them. No, you have to mean it. Genuinely mean it. And if you genuinely mean it, everything will work out in your favor. Opportunities will come your way, and life is going to be amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope somebody learned something from this. And thank you guys for following me on this journey. Love you guys. Didn't even get a chance to fuck up my sushi. But for the most part, that was that for this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Please be sure to subscribe to my Patreon if you guys are interested. It's as low as $2. Link in the description down below. And yeah, that's that. Like, comment, and subscribe. You don't owe nobody shit. And if family ain't shit, and if they don't fuck with you like you fuck with them, let them go. Ooh. I'm trying to fucking grab this shit. I fucking hate this shit. Troyce out this bitch.
Rain on me. Oh, won't you tell this rain for me? I don't wanna be, baby, just rain on me. Oh, why won't you tell this rain from me? Oh, I don't wanna live, baby, sometimes I can't sleep at night, yeah. Kids impossible sleep at night, yeah. Oh, rain on me. Oh, won't you tell this rain for me? I don't wanna live, baby, just rain on me.